Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. Bulgaria has been shaken by its largest protests in years, with tens of thousands demonstrating against the 2026 budget, tax hikes, corruption, and the planned adoption of the euro. Violent clashes in Sofia and President Rumen Radev's call for the government to resign have deepened uncertainty around the ruling minority coalition. With Bulgaria aiming to join the Eurozone next year, the stakes could not be higher. We discuss the political and economic implications with Spasimir Domaradzki, senior analyst at the Institute of Central Europe. Mr. Domaradzki, welcome to TVP World. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you for the invitation.
So tell us about these violent demonstrations, protests in Sofia. What happened and why? How were they triggered?
Well, let's start with the first question: what has happened and whether they were violent. There are two things that we need to highlight. The protests were not violent. What came out as a violence was actually a skillfully steered provocation conducted with the hands of the Bulgarian police forces, which brought practically football hooligans to join the protests. And then these hooligans turned against the police in order to provoke riots and to claim, to deliver arguments for the current government that actually the protests were violent. And what is even more important, in order to get the context, the police was emphasizing that in order to make sure that there will be no violence, special checkpoints were being made for people to be screened prior to joining the protest. Once these checkpoints were being used, all of a sudden it appeared that participants with hoodies and with black jackets apparently appeared from nowhere and joined the protesters. There were numerous informations around the social media for protesters to pay that they take pictures, that they film them, that they ask them who they are, so that it is clear that there is a distinction between the protesters and these hooligans. And this is what we got at the end. Once the protest was almost over, and the protest moved towards the headquarters of GERB party and DPS, the consequence was that all of a sudden these protests turned violent, and indeed we had several policemen injured and over a dozen of people that participated arrested. And the second question, why this happened, is because last week we had a protest against two things. Firstly, the budget for 2026, and secondly, and probably in my opinion much more importantly, because of the detention of the mayor of Varna, who remained in prison for more than 4 months in the arrest in practical terms. And the consequence of that was that people went on the streets to protest against these activities of the current government. The outcome was that Borissov at first claimed that the government will withdraw the budget, but within the same day he changed his mind and claimed that changes to the budget will be done in between the first and the second reading in the parliament, whereas at the same time trying to challenge the opposition party, We Continue Change and Democratic Bulgaria, in order to kind of bring them again to the square. And that's exactly what happened. The people went on the streets on Monday to show that they are not joking, that they're serious about their claims. And actually the protest spread over the whole country. So it was not only Sofia, Plovdiv, Varna or Burgas, which are the big cities, but also smaller smaller cities like Sliven, Veliko Trnovo, Blagoevgrad, all these cities showed an enormous amount of people openly stating their discontent with the actions of Zhelyaskov's government.
Now, the thing is that the hand of the government seems to be very closely involved in both the how and the why of these protests, and you would have thought they would be doing the exact opposite, trying to calm things down before joining the Eurozone, trying to maintain its position despite only having a minority coalition, and so on. So what's in it for the government? Why are they stirring this up now?
Well, the situation is a bit more complicated. The argument about minority coalition is in practical terms a fake image of what happens in Bulgaria. We have three parties which indeed, if you sum their mandates in the parliament, they are a minority, but they're backed by Delian Peevski, the Bulgarian tycoon sanctioned by Magnitsky law, kicked out from the Renew Europe, and a person that concentrates in himself all the pathologies of Bulgarian politics. In that sense, this government is practically considered by Bulgarians as his government, and the government in itself is actually a puppet in the hands of Peevski. So the protests are not actually against the prime minister itself. And I think that's one of the main challenges of the current political protests, because the question about the resignation of the current government will not resolve the pathologies in Bulgarian politics. It is just a mobilization of the electorate that strives for a normal Bulgaria, for a country that has functioning institutions, for a country that has a division of powers, and for a country that is capable of fighting corruption. So these are issues that will not be resolved with Zhelyaskov's government resignation, because Zhelyaskov is simply a shield for the informal state controlled by Borissov and Peevski.
Understood. Now, is there a role that the European Union could and should be playing to uncover all of this corruption under the surface that's going on at the moment?
The European Union has done what it could. Well, we need to remember that Bulgaria was a country under the cooperation and verification mechanism for a period from 2007 until 2023. So for 16 years, in practical terms, the European Union was pinpointing where are the problems related to corruption, and nothing has changed. What is even more, the European Union, in a sense, not the EU in general, but its particular aspects play a very ambiguous role, because we have the European People's Party strongly supporting Borissov and backing him up, regardless of what is happening in Bulgaria. So I think that one of the aspects that can be done is not so much in the European institutions, but in a kind of honest look in the ranks of the European People's Party and a reflection whether people associated with corruption, with state capture, represent accordingly the values of the European People's Party.
Understood. Now, just very briefly, in the last minute or so that we have left, Bulgaria is joining the Eurozone from the 1st of January next year. Good thing, bad thing?
Of course, absolutely good thing, especially because Bulgaria was being tied to the euro, and first to the Deutschmark and then to the euro for over 20 years. And in that sense, the Bulgarian discipline of the public finances is a remarkable one. The point is that the protesters, which we saw on the streets yesterday, are actually exactly the same people that are most euro enthusiastic and most supportive of joining the euro. The problem is that the elites that are bringing them to the euro are those that are associated with state capture.
Understood. Mr. Domaradzki, thank you very much indeed for laying out that analysis for our audience. Have a good evening, sir.
Thank you.
That brings us to the end of this episode of World Talks. As always, don't go away. Lots more coming up. Goodbye.